Adam was made mortal. That's all that the text basically is telling us.
So what do you mean in my seminar, which you see and you should believe, and you will again one day? I said mentioned there are 6 different meanings of this word evolution. You've used the word evolution a dozen times tonight. What do you mean by that word evolution, since that's the topic of the debate?
My view would, if we're talking about that, it would be the view of, my specific view would be process structuralism. So that would be my theory of evolution. Your idea that all evolution is defined under neo-Darwinism is just false.
So do you believe animals or plants ever produce different varieties and kind? Do you believe bananas are related to humans? How's that for a simple question?
Can we get back to the actual Genesis text? We're talking about Genesis, not evolution.
Once we define evolution, we have to kind of steer back to saying, okay, given that definition, does it fit within the Bible?
Okay. Okay, I will give you the theory of evolution I hold to. It's called process structuralism, advocated by Stephen Jay Gould towards the end of his life, Simon Conway Morris, Michael Denton over at the Discovery Institute. Okay, what we argue is that evolution is not about random blind luck or chance. It's variation in gene frequency. What we argue is that the universe was fine-tuned to produce life. So under neo-Darwinism, you have this. If you were to rewind the tape of life back to 0 and start over, you probably wouldn't get human life again because it's all random luck, random chance processes. Under process structuralism, if you rewind the tape of life back to 0 and start over, you would get human life again, or something very similar, because evolution comes about from imbued structures in the universe. In other words, the universe is fine-tuned to bring about certain structures within evolution.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, fine with me.
Okay, I just wanted to ask with both of you. Now, Kent, you pointed out that the universe is 6,000 years old, and I don't know if IP made clear what his position is on the beginning of the universe, because this does speak to the idea of evolution and time.
Well, two things I'd like to get out of him is exactly what you mean by that word evolution. Do you mean bananas and elephants are related and came from a common ancestor?
Yeah, they're both eukaryotes, yeah.
Okay, and bowling balls and whales are both attracted by gravity, so they got to be related. They're both attracted by gravity.
No, that doesn't follow at all.
I taught physical science. Gravity attracts whales and bowling balls. I can promise you they do. It does.
Okay, that doesn't mean they're related. I mean, again, we're talking about if Genesis is compatible. Why are we trying to jump on something that's not the topic?
I have to stick to whether or not it fits within the Bible. I hate to intervene. I usually like to let it be laissez-faire, but we do have to stick with the idea of whether or not it fits within the Bible.
All right, that's what I would want.
Mike, 20 times in the first 7 chapters, 20 times, 10 times in the first chapter, God said they'll bring forth after their kind. He talks about the birds bringing forth after their kind, the fish bringing forth after their kind, the animals bringing forth after their kind. Do you believe fish and birds have a common ancestor? Yes or no?
Yeah.
You do. That would contradict Genesis, which says the birds bring forth after their kind and the fish bring forth after their kind.
Where does evolution say that just one day a fish doesn't produce a fish?
Say that again? I didn't hear you.
What theory of evolution, neo-Darwinism, evolution through symbiogenesis, evo-devo, process structuralism, niche construction, I could name more theories. Which one of those theories of evolution says one day a fish just produces a non-fish?
I didn't say that. I said, do you think they have a common
I didn't say that. I agree things produce after their own kind, and my theory of evolution doesn't say that.
Jello to the wall, Mike. I asked you a simple question. I'll be glad to answer it. Do fish and birds have a common ancestor? No. No matter how far back you want to go. No, they do not. God made fish to produce fish and birds to produce birds. Do you believe, if you go back, I'll give you trillions of years, did the fish and the birds come from a common ancestor?
Again,
Yes.
I already answered that. And again, evolution doesn't say anything opposite of that. Again,
okay. Your answer was yes, which contradicts Genesis. That's the purpose of this debate, son.
Okay, first of all, no, evolution doesn't say that. And again, even if one day they just did, that wouldn't contradict Genesis, because again, evolution says there's variation in gene frequencies. Species pass on their actual genes and they bear after the same kind. No one has contradicted that. No one has said anything other than that. No one has ever argued that one day a species produces a completely different species. I've not said that. No one I've read, and I've read a lot of different evolutionary biologists, have said that. This is a total straw man, and it's not the subject of what we're trying to get at today. We're talking about what Genesis says.
I understand. Now, you keep trying to weasel out of this by using the phrase that one day a fish produced a bird. I didn't say that.
I didn't say that either.
Yes, you did.
I never said a fish produced a non-fish.
You're trying to twist my question into what you want it to be. My question is, do you think they had a common ancestor if you go back trillions of years? Are fish and birds related? Yes or no? I'll give you all the time you want. Trillions of years.
Apparently, we need Guru Ken Hovind to narrate what's actually happening here. Again, we're talking about what actually Genesis text says. Okay, is it about material creation? You keep trying to go to what the theory of evolution says. Okay. And again, I'm not saying that anything ever produces something different than its kind as you define it.
Evolution says that.
No, it doesn't.
Evolution says fish and bananas are related.
That is a different. Look, notice the semantic shift you did there. The semantic shift. You said produce after their own kind, and then you had a semantic shift to are they related? Notice the semantic shift. They're both eukaryotes. So they're both vertebrates. They both go back to tetrapods.
I can show you hundreds of biology textbooks where they show charts with all the lines connected with fish, bananas, whales, birds, everything back to a common ancestor. Do you believe those charts?
I do believe, yes, there is a common eukaryote ancestor there.
Okay, so this common eukaryote ancestor was neither fish nor bird, and it produced something that became fish and bird, so it no longer produced after its kind, did it?
No, that's not what it says. This is a slow generation changes. These are changes in species, populations within species, for example. Again, you're misinterpreting the entire what evolution actually says.
I'm nailing it right on the head. You know it. I'm nailing it right on the head. Okay, so
I'm glad you have to tell us how you're doing because you can't let your argument speak for yourself.
If a man flies through the air quickly, we call that, Superman. We call that, science fiction, fairy tale stuff. But if he walks slowly through the air, now it is science.
That is a total straw man. No one has ever made that.
Oh, it hits it right on the head, right on the head.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry. It's a little bit to me seems like it might be waving back into the idea of like whether or not evolution is credible, which is
exactly
not what we're trying to debate. We have to stick to the textual arguments. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Let me finish that. I am trying to point out the topic of the debate: does evolution contradict Genesis? Well, we have to define the word. What does evolution mean, and what does Genesis say? Genesis says clearly they'll bring forth after their kind. Evolution, at least macroevolution, says birds and bananas are related. That contradicts Genesis. I won the debate. Genesis does not fit the evolution theory.
Evolution never says something brings forth after its own kind. No one ever says a dog produces a non-dog. That is a huge straw man of what the evolutionary text actually
says. An amoeba produced a non-amoeba slowly.
No, it doesn't.
They got something, let's call it an amoeba, a single-cell creature.
No one has ever said that.
Do you believe, look at the charts in the biology books. They've got a single-cell creature going up to a whale and a banana.
Do you just look at the charts, or do you actually ever read the text of what they're saying about the population changes? I mean, it's not about people producing different genes or different species. I mean, that's never been the claim.
It is, though. If they started from an amoeba, the amoeba should have always produced amoebas, and amoebas are still having babies today, and they're called amoebas.
Eukaryotes always produce eukaryotes. I agree. I never said anything different.
So did a whale come from a single-celled eukaryote amoeba?
Okay, now listen what you're doing. You're setting up the straw man right here. You're saying, did it come from that? Because you're assuming a direct connection.
That's all I'm doing.
Nope, you're setting up a straw man direct connection. You do this a lot of time in the debates.
Okay.
They came through slow population changes and variation in gene frequencies, different structures evolving.
Hold on. So slowly, the amoeba,
No, not the amoeba. Nope.
Both Mike and I'm sorry. I need you to explain, Kent Hovind, like just directly like how it ties to the scripture, because I think it's really hard for me to see, like there's no passages where there's no verses that have been mentioned for a while.
I got an idea. I feel like we're just beating a dead horse here. Let's move on to a different passage, because I have a couple other questions for Kent.
I mentioned there are 20 times in the first 7 chapters about bringing forth after their kind. God told Noah to bring them onto the ark after their kind. 10 times in the flood story, 10 times in the creation story. It couldn't be more clear. Fish are not dogs. Fish are not bananas. They didn't have a common ancestor. You believe they had a common ancestor. You're wrong.
That's wonderful. Let me
go ahead.
I think we should move on.
Yeah, that's great, Ken.